So, you want to own a parking lot. You buy a flat piece of land, paint some lines on it, put up a gate, and watch people pay you money to leave their car there for a few hours. No tenants to chase. No leases to negotiate. No one calling you at midnight about a broken toilet. Just a rectangle of asphalt that prints cash. Sounds simple. It is not simple. Because a parking lot isn't really a business. It's a hostage situation for land, and the story of how these lots actually make money, and how the entire industry is quietly dying underneath everyone's feet, is one of the strangest stories in real estate. Here's the first thing nobody tells you: a parking lot is almost never the best use of the land it sits on. It's the cheapest use. Developers call it a taxpayer, a building just good enough to cover the property tax while the owner waits for something better to happen. Think about where parking lots actually exist. Downtown corners next to skyscrapers. Blocks next to stadiums. Land near airports. These are some of the most valuable pieces of dirt in an entire city, and someone is using them to park a Honda Civic for $6 an hour. That's not an accident. It's a strategy. Landowners often keep a lot as a parking lot on purpose, because it's the one use that requires almost no permanent construction, generates immediate income, and can be torn up and redeveloped the moment a better offer shows up. You're not really buying a parking business. You're buying a placeholder on top of a much bigger bet, and the income from parked cars is just the rent you collect while you wait. Say you actually want to build one from scratch, not a surface lot, but a real multi-level parking structure. This is where the simple business stops being simple. A structured parking garage isn't just concrete and steel. It needs fire suppression systems, ventilation for exhaust fumes, emergency lighting, elevators, drainage that can handle thousands of gallons of runoff, and enough structural strength to hold hundreds of moving vehicles at once. A single above-ground parking space in a structured garage can cost tens of thousands of dollars to build, before you've made a single dollar. Multiply that by a few hundred spaces, and you're looking at a project that can run into the tens of millions, for a building whose entire product is empty space. Buying an existing lot is cheaper up front. But just like with any real estate, not all lots are the same lot. There's a massive gap between what the industry calls Class A parking assets, structures next to major airports, downtown financial districts, or sports arenas with guaranteed daily demand, and everything below that. Those premium assets can sell for staggering multiples of their yearly income, because buyers know the demand is close to guaranteed. A cracked surface lot in a fading strip mall, on the other hand, might sell for barely more than the value of the raw dirt underneath it, because the parking business attached to it isn't worth much at all. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because a parking lot makes money in more layers than people assume. The first and most obvious layer is transient parking, the hourly and daily customer. Simple, but low margin per car, and completely dependent on foot traffic. The second layer, and often the more important one, is monthly reserved parking. A single reserved spot sold to a commuter or a downtown office worker can generate steady, predictable income every single month, no different from a tenant paying rent, except this tenant never calls about a broken pipe. The third layer is event and surge pricing. A lot that charges $8 an hour on a normal Tuesday can charge $40 or $50 for a single game day, concert, or holiday weekend. A handful of high-demand event days can generate more income than an entire slow month combined, which is exactly why lots near stadiums and arenas are among the most valuable parking assets in the country. The fourth layer is the one most people never think about: everything that isn't actually a car. Advertising space on the gate arms and payment kiosks. Validation partnerships with the restaurant or office tower next door, who pay the lot owner directly to discount their customers' parking. And increasingly, EV charging stations, which some owners now treat as a second business entirely, charging both a parking fee and a per kilowatt-hour charging fee on the same square foot of land. But here's the layer of costs that catches almost every new owner off guard. Insurance on a parking lot is not simple, because you're financially exposed to two very different kinds of disaster: a customer slipping and falling, and someone's car getting damaged, broken into, or stolen while it was supposedly in your care. Liability premiums on parking structures have climbed sharply in recent years, and a single serious accident can trigger a lawsuit that erases years of profit. Then there's maintenance most people never picture. Asphalt cracks and needs to be resealed every few years. Line painting fades and has to be redone. Elevators and payment gates in structured garages need constant servicing. And in cities with strict accessibility laws, a lot that isn't fully compliant with disability access requirements can face fines or lawsuits that show up years after you bought the place, completely invisible on the day you signed the papers. And then there's the cost almost nobody accounts for until it's too late: property tax reassessment. Buy a lot in a rising neighborhood, and the city may reassess its value upward almost immediately, meaning your tax bill can jump dramatically the same year you take ownership, sometimes before you've adjusted a single price on your rate sign. Now, here's the structural risk running underneath this entire industry, and it's not a slow, gentle decline. It's a chain reaction. For most of the last century, parking demand in American downtowns was treated as a near-permanent guarantee. Cities even passed laws forcing new buildings to include a fixed number of parking spaces, because planners assumed car ownership and commuting would only grow. Then three things happened at once. Rideshare apps made owning a car in a dense city less necessary. Remote and hybrid work emptied out downtown office towers that used to fill parking structures every weekday morning. And cities themselves began rezoning land to allow housing and mixed-use buildings on lots that used to be reserved for parking. The result is a slow bleed that shows up first in occupancy, and only later in price. A structured garage that used to run at 90% capacity on weekday mornings can quietly drop to 60 or 50%, not because of one dramatic event, but because a few hundred office workers, one company at a time, simply stopped commuting 5 days a week. And just like a co-tenancy trapdoor in a shopping mall, the damage compounds. Lower occupancy means lower revenue, which means less money for maintenance, which means a lot starts looking neglected, which pushes away the remaining premium customers who have other options, accelerating the very decline that started it. Some cities have leaned the opposite direction entirely, selling off public parking assets to private investors in massive, decades-long deals, locking in guaranteed income for the city today, in exchange for giving up control of pricing for generations. Deals like this have become some of the most studied, and most criticized, real estate transactions in modern American city planning, precisely because nobody involved could agree, years later, on who actually got the better end of the bargain. So, here's the real truth hiding under all that painted asphalt. A parking lot was never really a car business. It's a landholding strategy wearing a car business as a costume, collecting just enough income to justify sitting on some of the most valuable dirt in the city, while everyone waits to see what it becomes next. Which means the smartest parking lot owners in the country aren't thinking about cars at all. They're thinking about what replaces the parking lot and making sure they're the one who owns the land when that day comes. If this kind of hidden economics fascinates you, the stuff sitting right in front of you every day that you never actually understood, that's exactly what this channel is built around. Subscribe. Because next time we're pulling back the curtain on something else you walk past without ever asking how the money really works.